Good morning, students. So, in continuation of our class, next we are dealing part 4. Okay. So, we have seen the type of occlusion in complete dentures. Okay? Bilateral balanced occlusion has to be given. So, we will see what are the factors affecting balanced occlusion. This topic is very important, which will be frequently asked in essays or short answers. Okay. Factors that affect balanced occlusion. So Hanov initially has given 9 factors, such as loss of balanced articulation. Then among these 9, 5 factors are very critical. So they are commonly called as Hanov quint. Okay, Hanov's quint, Quint, Hanov's quint. They are condylar guidance, incisal guidance, plane of occlusion, the compensating curve, cuspal height, and cusp inclination. These 5 factors are very important. So among these 5 factors, condylar guidance is given by the patient. So whatever is present or whatever guidance given by the patient has to be recorded, and it has to be used to set the articulator or to program the articulator. Whereas other factors, incisional guidance, plane of occlusion, compensating curve, cuspal height, these are developed by the dentist. So when we are setting the teeth, these other factors can be modified or altered to achieve balance. So dentists have dentist can have control over these 4 factors only. So one factor which is not under the control of dentist is condylar guidance, because it is a bony relation which is present in the patient that has to be utilized. That relation has to be utilized. That should not be changed or altered. Now we'll see what is condylar guidance. As we know, condyle is a part of temporomandibular joint. So when patient opens the mouth, first the condyle rotates along a hinge axis. So rotation takes place, means movement of condyle on its own axis. So initially, as you open the mouth, condyles rotates. As you further opens the mouth, then it translates or it moves forward along the articular eminence. Condyle moves along the articular eminence. So articular eminence guides the movement of the condyle. Okay, so this angulation, how the condyle is translating in the temporomandibular joint, has to be recorded and should be programmed in the articulator to develop balanced occlusion. Okay, so mandibular guidance generated by condyle and articular disc transferring along the contour of glenoid fossa. So along the contour of glenoid fossa and the articular eminence, along along the condylar movement will be depend on the glenoid fossa and the articular eminence. So condylar guidance is due to path followed by condyle in temporomandibular joint. So condyle guidance is nothing but the movement or the path taken by condyle in the temporomandibular joint during mandibular movements. It is the only factor given by the patient and it is obtained by means of protrusive registration. Condylar guidance is recorded by making the patient to bring the mandible to protrusive state. So when patient mandible is in protrusive state, you take the record in that position, or when you record the mandibular protrusive position, it gives the condylar guidance and we can set the fully adjustable or semi-adjustable articulator can be programmed accordingly. Condylar guidance can be recorded. Okay, it is one of the end controlling factor and it is independent of tooth contact. So this condylar guidance does not depend on the tooth contacts. Okay, as it is a bony position, it is one of the end controlling important factor and it independent of tooth contact. Next, condylar path. The path traveled by the mandibular condyle in the temporomandibular joint during various mandibular movements. During various mandibular movements, during opening of the mouth, closing, or during protrusion, or during lateral movement. When the mandibular movements are taking place, the path of the condyle or the movement of the condyle in the TMJ has to be recorded. The condyle does not transfer along a straight line path, but it takes a very zigzag pathway, the net result of which represented by a straight line. Usually, glenoid fossa is a depression in the maxilla or cranial base. Okay, condyle moves along the glenoid fossa and comes on to the articular eminence. So you can see condyle. Initially, condyle will be here. As you open the mouth initially for about 20 mm as you open the mouth, condyle will be rotating in its own axis. Then beyond 20 mm, if you open the mouth, the condyles will translate, or condyles will move along the glenoid fossa and over the articular eminence. See, this path or this way is not a straight line. Okay, so this will be a zigzag, or it will be in a depression and it elevation. So it will be in a zigzag way. But in articulator, it will be represented like a straight line. Sagittal condylar guidance angle. Average path taken by the condyle during a forward movement from the centric relation position when view in a sagittal plane. So as we see in previous slide, so condyle when it is in centric relation position, it will be in the rest position in the glenoid fossa. Okay, as patient opens the mouth, the condyles will translate or move forward. Okay, when it is moving forward, okay, it form an angle along the sagittal plane. The angle formed by the movement of the condyle to the sagittal plane gives the sagittal condylar guidance angle. This angle is important to arrange our teeth in balanced occlusion. So this sagittal condylar guidance angle or condylar guidance depends on some factors. They are the shape of the bony contour of TMJ. So it depends on the bony contour of TMJ. So this is glenoid fossa and articular eminence. See, if this articular eminence is steep, condylar guidance will be steep or increased. If articular eminence or bony projection is a shallow one, condylar guidance will be shallow. Okay, it depends on the shape of bony contour of TMJ. And it depends on action of muscles attaching to the mandible. So muscles of mastication and other muscles which are attached to mandible also influence this condylar guidance angle. The limitation of movement affected by attachment ligaments. Even the ligaments, temporomandibular joint ligaments, also influence the condylar movement. And the method used is RealF. RealF is nothing but resiliency-like effect. It is given by Hanau. So mucosa will have a resiliency-like effect, cushion effect. So it will provide some kind of cushioning or some kind of depressions. Next, see, condylar guidance angle is the path taken by the condyle when mandible is moved in various eccentric movements during centric, protrusive, lateral movements. How the condyle is moving against the glenoid fossa and articular eminence. This is important and it is the factor which is not under the control of dentist. Next, incisal guidance. So, incisal guidance is nothing but, so when you draw a line, when you draw a sagittal line, when you draw a line sagittally, and to that line one more line is drawn contacting the incisal edges of maxillary and mandibular teeth. So the angle formed by the line contacting the incisal edges of upper and lower teeth to that of sagittal plane or horizontal plane gives incisal guidance angle. So this depends on the teeth arrangement of your anterior teeth. So depending on when you are arranging the anterior teeth, what all will be under your control? You have horizontal overlap, that is overjet, and you have vertical overlap, overbite. So incisal guidance angle depends on the teeth arrangement, such as in horizontal overlap, overjet, vertical overlap, overbite. Depending on this, incisal guidance will be the influence of contacting surface of mandibular and maxillary anterior teeth on mandibular movements. So the influence of the contacting surface of mandibular and maxillary anterior teeth. We have seen during protrusion, mandibular incisal edges will contact the lingual slopes or palatal slopes of maxillary anterior teeth. So these contacting will influence the mandibular movements. So if these two surfaces are very much steep or very much close together, they create interferences, or they create this vertical overlap is very deep, or there is a deep bite in your dentures, and patient moves the mandible, only anteriors will be in contacting, posteriors will be out of occlusion. This should not happen in our balanced occlusion. So we have to see that the contacting surface of mandible and maxillary anterior teeth should provide mandibular movements freely. Incisal guide angle, angle formed by intersection of plane of occlusion, and line within sagittal plane determined by incisal edges of maxillary and mandibular central incisors when teeth are in maximum intercuspation. See, this angle is formed when the posterior teeth are in maximum intercuspation. When posterior teeth are in maximum intercuspation, angle formed by sagittal plane to the line determined by the contacting the incisal and mandibular central maxillary central incisor edges. This incisal guidance angle is largely under the influence of dentist. So we have control over this incisal guidance angle. This factor is influenced by amount of horizontal and vertical overlap, like overjet and overbite. During protrusive movements, when mandible is in during forward movement, mandibular teeth move forward. Mandibular teeth move downward and forward as per the incisal guidance. So when you move the mandible during protrusive, so first this teeth will come in contact here. Then further it will come downward and forward. Okay. See, clench your teeth. As you move your mandible forward, lower teeth will come into contact with the upper anteriors, lingual slopes of upper anteriors. Then as you move the mandible forward, the lower teeth will come to the edge to edge relation to the maxillary anterior. Mandibular anteriors will come to edge to the mandibular maxillary anteriors. Then it will come forward. So as you move the mandible, the condyle teeth move downward and forward as per the incisal guidance. For complete denture, the incisal guidance should be as flat as possible to provide aesthetics and phonetics will permit. So this is very important. Incisal guidance for complete dentures to provide balanced occlusion, the incisal guidance should be flat, but the aesthetics and phonetics should not be affected. So if you keep an open bite where upper and lower teeth will not have a overlap, when patient closes the mouth also, when patient bites into occlusion also, posterior teeth are in occlusion, anteriors there will be a gap. So it leads to open bite. That will affect the aesthetics and also phonetics. Few words like F, V, S cannot be pronounced. So incisal guidance should be good enough to provide aesthetics and phonetics. Next, if incisal guidance is steep, as we discussed previously, if it is steep, it's very close to each other. Steeper the cusp or occlusal plane, steep will be the compensating curves is needed to balance the occlusion. See, we have seen among 5 factors of balanced occlusion, condylar guidance is not under the control of dentist. Next, if incisal guidance is steep, Then other factors such as cusp height, occlusal plane, and compensating curves also should be made steep to provide balanced occlusion. Okay. So incisal guidance is steep means other three factors which are under the dentist control should be made steep to provide balanced occlusion. And arrangement of anti-teeth necessitate vertical overlap. Okay, then there should be a vertical overlap of upper and lower anteriors has to be there. Compensating horizontal overlap should be set to prevent dominant incisal guidance. So to provide steep or dominant incisal guidance, when there is a vertical overlap has to be there, and it has to be compensated by horizontal overlap. Okay, from upsetting the occlusal balance on posterior teeth. Okay, so when we want to set a vertical overlap, we have to compensate by providing horizontal overlap to prevent steep or problematic incisal guidance. Plane of occlusion. So you already know. Plane of occlusion means the plane of orientation of teeth arrangement. Occlusal surface of the posterior teeth. What plane it has to take place. Okay. So plane of occlusion or occlusal plane is defined as imaginary surface which is related anatomically to the cranium. So this surface has to be anatomically related to the cranium and which theoretically touches the incisal edges of incisors and tips of occlusal surface of posterior teeth. This occlusal plane contacts the incisal edges of anterior teeth and tips of occlusal surface of posterior teeth. It represents the mean curvature of the surface established anteriorly by height of lower canine, posteriorly by height of retromolar pad. So usually what Winkler says is when you take a mandible, the occlusal plane runs from the cusp tip of mandibular canine. Okay, from cusp tip of lower mandibular canine to the retromolar pad. So usually the cusp tip of mandibular canine will be at the commissure or the corners of the mouth. So from the corners of the mouth to the retromolar pad, the occlusal plane usually it has to be in that level. It should not be too high or it should not be too low. Other methods of recording occlusal plane is the occlusal plane should be parallel to and midway between the residual ridges. The Boucher says that the occlusal plane, when you take maxillary arch and mandibular arch and vertical relation is determined, midway between these separated maxillary and mandibular edentulous arches, midway you have to provide occlusal surface or occlusal plane. Next, some author says occlusal plane should be parallel to resting upper lip and parallel with Camper's line. Camper's line runs with ala tragal line. Okay, inferior part of ala to mid part of the tragus of the ear. Okay, so occlusal plane has to be parallel to ala tragal line or Camper's line. Some says it should be parallel with lateral borders of the tongue. When tongue is in rest position, the occlusal plane of the mandibular teeth should be at the lateral borders of the tongue. And also plane should be parallel with interpupillary line anteriorly and ala tragus line posteriorly. Already we discussed. The plane of occlusion. So when we want to change slightly the plane of occlusion, it can be altered up to 10 degrees only, not beyond that. So beyond that, it will affect the balanced or stability of the dentures. This is a determination of occlusal plane determination according to ala tragal line or Camper's line. See, from the ala of the nose to the tragus, a line is drawn and occlusal plane should be parallel to this. So accordingly, we have to set our teeth. If not, we can alter slight amount of 10 degrees, not beyond that. So Hanow states that plane of orientation or occlusal plane is purely geometrical factor and pass through central incisal point and summits of mesobuccal cusp of molars. So Hanow says that the plane of orientation runs from maxillary central incisal point to mesobuccal cusp of molar in the maxillary. Hanow used this plane for signifying general direction of masticatory surface in denture space available and for characterization of compensating curve. So according to Boucher, locating occlusal plane high or low to favor the weak of weaker of two ridges can cause both aesthetic and mechanical trouble. What Boucher says is, as we discussed previously, the occlusal plane has to be in the midway between maxillary and mandibular ridges. So, if not midway, if we place close to any ridge, either maxillary or mandibular ridge, because of their resorbed condition. So, as we discussed previously, when the ridges are resorbed, the teeth has to sit close to the ridges. So, if we set close to the ridges, the occlusal plane will be not in the midway. They may shift either downward or upward according to the which side of the ridge or the which side of the arch, maxillary and mandibular arch you are shifted, the plane will be altered. So if you alter the plane, it may affect aesthetics or mechanical or functional problems may arise. That was the Boucher's statement. So if soft tissue surrounding denture are to work around them as they did around nasal teeth, occlusal plane should be oriented exactly as it was when nasal teeth are present. So some author says that the occlusal plane has to be, when you are giving occlusal plane in artificial dentures, the plane has to be present exactly how it was in natural dentition. So the plane when it was in natural dentition, same way you have to give for your artificial dentition. By positioning anterior teeth correctly for aesthetic appearance and locating posterior end of occlusal plane approximately level with top of retromolar pair, factor of orientation of occlusal plane is fixed. Okay. So to fix the occlusal plane, two factors you have to determine. One is the plane anteriorly should be aesthetically good. So when we are arranging the maxillary and mandibular anterior teeth, the level of upper and lower incisal edges should be such that they should be aesthetically good. And posteriorly, the occlusal plane should be to the level of 2/3 of anterior 2/3 of retromolar pad. Okay. So when you are doing occlusal rims, you set your mandibular occlusal rim posteriorly up to anterior 2/3 of retromolar pad. Up to that level only you have to set your occlusal plane. You should not shift it. Okay. Any necessary alteration for balancing occlusion must be made on other factors. So any alteration has to be made should be done for other factors, not for plane of orientation. Okay. So compensating curve. This is very important factor in balanced occlusion. Okay. So anterior posterior curving and mediolateral curving within the alignment of occluding surface and incisal edges of artificial teeth that is used to develop balanced occlusion. So when we are setting our teeth according to the mandibular movement, which is determined by condylar path. Okay. So mandibular movement depended by condylar path. So depending on this condylar path, we have to arrange our teeth to develop compensating curves. So compensating curves has to be provided in the artificial dentures to gain balanced occlusion. Okay. So these curves can be anterior posterior curve such as curve of Sweet or mediolateral curve such as monsoon curve, anti-monsoon curve or Wilson curves. These curves has to be established in the posterior teeth to develop balanced occlusion. This is one of the most important factors. See, okay, it is determined by inclination of posterior teeth and their vertical relation to the occlusal plane. So when we are setting the teeth, see maxillary teeth we place slightly buccal. So mandibular posterior teeth when we are positioning we place slightly lingual. Lingual tilt will be given. So depending on inclination of posterior teeth and their relationship to the occlusal plane, the occlusal surface results in a curve that is in harmony with the movement of mandible. See, so the arrangement of teeth, the inclination of the teeth, the position of the teeth, depending on that, we create a curves in the occlusal plane. So these curve should be according to the mandibular movement. These depends on the compensating curves. See, we have compensating curve. When we set our teeth, maxillary teeth according to the glass plate. See, first premolar we have only buccal cusp will be in contact. Second premolar, both buccal and palatal cusp will be in contact. As you go to molars, only mesiopalatal cusp will be in contact. second molar, it won't contact the glass plate. It will be 0.5 to 1 mm above the glass plate relation. Okay, so according to maxillary teeth, when we set our mandibular teeth, we create a curve. Okay, when we draw a anterior posterior curve contacting the cusp tips of canine, premolars and molars, this curve goes along the TMJ. Okay, so this anterior posterior curve is known as curve of Spee. Okay, this is curve of Wilson, mediolateral, from side to side. Curve of Monson, anti-monsoon curve. These are mediolateral curves. The curve of Monsoon, curve of occlusion in which each cusp and incisal edges touches or conforms to a segment of surface of sphere of 8-inch in diameter with its center in region of glabella. So when we draw a curve, the center in glabella, okay, we draw a diameter of 8-inch. Okay, it runs from the posterior cusp tips of right side curve like this and touch on the other side, touch the cusp tips of left side posterior cusp tips. So the curve of occlusion in which cusp and incisal edges touches to conform to a sphere of 8-inch in diameter with center in the glabella. Okay. Curve of Wilson. It is a mediolateral curve. When we are arranging the teeth, mandibular teeth, see, we keep slightly lingual tilt such that the mandibular posterior buccal cusp will be higher than the lingual cusp. Buccal cusp will be higher than the lingual cusp. So it is a mediolateral curve that contacts the buccal and lingual cusp tips on each side of the arch. So when we draw a curve contacting the buccal cusp tips and lingual cusp tips on one side to other side, we form a curve. This is known as curve of Wilson. Okay, anti-monsoon curve or the reverse curve of Wilson. So this is seen in case of severely attenuated teeth. When there is severely attenuated teeth, we see a reverse curve. Reverse curve will stabilize the lower denture. Main drawback is does not allow for bilateral balance in eccentric jaw movements. So if you give anti-monsoon or reverse curve of Wilson, it won't give bilateral balance. Pleasure curve, it is given by Max Pleasure. Advocates anti-monsoon reverse curve except for second molars. So pleasure curve is there for all except in second molars. Second molars are tipped up to allow for bilateral balance of 3 points, incisal and both second molars in eccentric movements. So if you are giving a pleasure curve for premolars and first molar, pleasure curve is given except on the second molar which are flat enough. So when patient moves the mandible, upper and lower incisal edges are anterior will be in contact, posteriorly second molars will be in contact. It gives balance or tripod contacts. So the primary function of compensating curve is to provide balancing contacts for protrusive mandibular movements. Without this curve, it would necessitate to incline the entire occlusal plane at an angle. Okay. So the main function of giving compensating curve is to provide balancing contact for protrusive mandibular movements. See, mandibular movements takes place according to condylar path. So depending on this condylar path, the compensating curve has to be established to attain contacts during the mandibular movements. Steep condylar path requires steep compensating curve. See, very important. Steeper the condylar path. So if steep means higher the angle. You have to give steep the compensating curve to produce balanced occlusion. A lesser compensating curve for the same condylar guidance would result in steeper incisal guidance. See, when there is a steep condylar path, you have to give steep compensating curve. If not, for this steep condylar path, if you give a lesser compensating curve, it will cause steep incisal guidance and causes loss of molar balancing contacts. See here. So, see, it is have condylar inclination, condylar guidance angle of 30 degrees. So depending on this, we have to give the steepness of compensating curve. So it is given 25, 20 degrees, 15 degrees, and for this incisal guidance is 10. Okay. Whereas for 40 degrees, as the angulation increases, see the compensating curves also increased. So steeper the condylar guidance, steeper will be the compensating curve. So if you don't give steeper condylar compensating curve for this, and if you give a lesser compensating curve for this steep condylar guidance, it causes incisal guidance interference and leads to posterior teeth disocclusion. Last factor is cuspal inclination or cuspal angle. Okay, angle made by the average slope. Angle made by the average slope of cusp with the cuspal plane. This is the cuspal plane or occlusal plane. To that, the angle made by the slope of the cusp measured mesodistally or buccolingually. So depending on this, we categorize teeth into 30-degree anatomic teeth, semi-anatomic 20 degrees, or non-anatomic 0 cusp teeth or monoplane teeth. These are important determinants as they modify the effect of occlusal plane and compensating curve. So the cuspal angle or cuspal inclination is very important because according this the plane of occlusion and compensating curve is determined. So if you keep a steep cuspal angle, compensating curve will be steep. If you keep a lesser angle of the cusp, you create a less compensating curves. Okay, the angulation of cusp is more important than the height of the cusp. The angle of the cusp, see, we don't want the height of the cusp. The angle of the cusp is important. Angle of the cusp is important more than the height of the cusp. The basic inclination of the cusp is made steeper when distal end tooth is still higher than mesial end. The inclination of the cusp is made steeper when the distal end tooth is set higher than the mesial end. By changing the angulation of the tooth, we can make the cusp either steeper or lesser. Similar adjustment can be made in the inclination of buccal and lingual cusp when buccolingual long axes of the teeth are tipped. By changing the angulation of the teeth, okay, either buccolingually or mesodistally, we can alter the angulation of the cusp. In shallow bite cases, cuspal angle should be reduced to balance the incisal guidance. When the bite or overbite or vertical overlap is shallow, we have to reduce the cuspal angulation. If it is deep bite cases, incisal guidance will be steep. The jar separation is more during protrusion. So in deep bite cases, incisal guidance will be steep and we have to give high cuspal angulation. Remember, if incisal guidance is low, the cuspal angle also will be low. If incisal guidance is steep in deep bite cases, the cuspal angle also has to be increased to provide balanced occlusion. See, by changing the angulation of the teeth, the cuspal angle can be altered. So this is the Hanau's quint, which is represented by a diagram. See, this is the center point, and we have other factors: condylar inclination, incisal guidance inclination, plane of orientation or occlusal plane, compensating curve, height of the cusp. So if this arrow is going away from the center point means increasing. It indicates increasing. So if it is a steep condylar guidance angle, the occlusal plane has to be steeper, compensating curve has to be steeper, the cusp also has to be steeper, or angulation of the cusp is more, but the incisal guidance should be low. So in that way we have to read this diagram. Okay. If the incisal guidance angle is more or incisal guidance angle is steep means the cusp will be steep, compensating curves will be steep, occlusal plane will be steep, but the condylar guidance will be shallow. Okay. So like this we have to read the inclination of the plane of orientation, height of the cusp, prominence of the cusp, compensating curve. Okay.